offer my respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to my own spiritual mentor, Srila Prabhupada, and of course to all of you who have come. The book more or less sort of speaks for itself. Hopefully all of you have a copy of it. It's an interesting marriage between modernity and antiquity, between modern, contemporary, cutting-edge principles, technologies that's given to us now in leadership and management. And at the same time, it's showing how ancient wisdom has always had significant answers. That nothing is really so new, but there's a need for us sometimes to rediscover. But first, before I start speaking, I'd like to take a minute or two just to thank those who made the books happen. Because really this gathering is more for yourselves than for me. Because everyone knows that I'm not a writer. We now have 8 books finished. We have 4.5 or 5 books that are being edited. And of course the books are now, we heard 2 days ago, in 11 different languages. Our newest language is actually the language of Macedonia. So we have Croatian, Hebrew, Russian, Spanish, Italian, etc. And I want to sort of make an apology because recently I've been sort of challenging our English team, Harinam Press, because now we have the books in several other countries and we have a team there. And so we're particularly mentioning Russian and Croatian editions are going so fast. Matter of fact, I've just come from Russia only a couple of days ago. And I was shocked to see the number of books that are being sold. Through my tour, we must have sold over just 1,000 books in a short time. And I asked one of the publishers how much he's been doing recently with one of the last 2 printings, and it was about 40,000. And so we are having a wonderful chance now to have this literature in so many different places in the world. I also want to thank those who are my fans, because sometimes people say the books are very personal, and it's as if the author is talking to the reader. Well, the books are not just written. Most of the books are live discussions. And many of those discussions, especially the earlier books, were discussions with some of you who are part of the Institute of Applied Spiritual Technology. And we also want to thank those at Gita Nagri. You see a few of you here from there. This is our community in Pennsylvania. We have 300 acres of land, and we are embarking upon trying to have simple life and simple living and high thinking. And so many of the TV programs, this is our 8th year in being on DC cable, the 3rd year in being on cable in Detroit. And many of the cable TV programs that some of you have been watching are coming directly from live discussion at our Gitanagari farm. So we're trying to maximize our efforts and do many things at the same time. So many of the lectures are audio. They go on our audio ministry, video ministry, show on television, and then some of them are being transcribed or translated, in some cases transcribed, into books. So the book we have today that we're talking about, the 2nd volume, of course, of Leadership for an Age of Higher Consciousness, and emphasizes ancient wisdom for modern times. Now, the book mainly focuses on the life of Vishwadev speaking to a personality called Yudhishthira and an assembly. Now, this is literally the oldest treatise on leadership known to humankind. And it also talks about great King Prithu Maharaj. And so the principles are from, again, and then matching them with day-to-day concerns in management, administration, and leadership. Now, due to what's happening now here in Washington, as well as in the world, I'm not going to talk so much about that particular topic of antiquity. You have the book, you look at it close, study it, and there's so many treasures that are there. And it's very unique in certain ways. because it's giving nourishment to the body, to the mind, and also to the soul. But I want to talk today some more practical concerns in relationship to what we would call dharma, or ethics, morality, truth, religion, principle-centered focus. We want to look closer at integrity and, most important, at character. I was, the last couple of months or so, doing lots of TV programs and a lot of chances to give lectures at business schools. And so, just recently at the Moscow Business Academy, I started off the lecture by saying that one of the main reasons persons like myself are trying to reach CEOs, trying to reach people in the business fields around the world, is because we're understanding the significant need for transformation, for global mind shifts, and for genuine transformation. One has to look closer at what or who are the real policymakers. Where is the real influence coming from in society? So we're at a time now when literally corporations are beginning to rule the world. If we look at national economies, if we look at the 12 topmost national economies, we'll see something very interesting. If we look at such, we'll find that certain multinational corporations have more resource, have more capital, have more finance, and definitely have more influence than countries. General Motors, the Pentagon, and several other multinational companies have such influence, have more finance, more economic means than entire countries. And this will increase. Now that we have such globalization of market, centralization of technology, the decisions that individual leaders make become more and more impacting on the world. And many of those decisions will be made by leaders of organizations, leaders of corporations, and of course, presidents of countries. As we look today and we look at what has happened with Enron, what has taken place with WorldCom, Tyco, Adelphia, we see that businesses and business leaders are showing their faces, and what we see is frightening. We see such a lack of principle-centered focus, and we see people that have so much greed that they are taking away from the needs of literally millions of people. And there's a need to look closer at how to make a difference. When we look at what is going on right here in Washington, where our president, wonderful cowboy, is trying to pursue little combat. But it's not just on the range, it's not just in his own state, it's not just in his own territory, but it's something that can confront the whole world with the possibility of nuclear, chemical, and biological warfare. We see what is going on by a few individuals. Osama bin Laden was going on by this sniper. We realize how one or few people can dismantle things in such an awesome way. We hear about other countries getting nuclear technology. And then we have a chance to think closer about the kind of mentality of some of these persons. We should realize how precarious our situation is as citizens of this planet. When we look worldwide at the serial killers, we're shocked to see that 75% of the serial killers are Americans. And here we are in the country that is supposedly one of the most productive countries in the world. We look closer at the social, psychological aspects of the society. And it's alarming. So there is a need to look closer, particularly at how to arrest the social degradation, how to arrest the kind of violence that is taking place. Any major problem that is facing any institution, any country, any grouping of people has a significant factor, comes back significantly to a crisis in leadership. And so this is why we're trying to write more and more in these areas and address these concerns from a physical, from a psychological, sociological, metaphysical, and a spiritual perspective. There are tremendous paradoxes in our times. One of the great paradoxes is the paradox that as the means, let's say the instrument for communication are so expert, are so phenomenal. But mutual intelligibility, people's genuine ability to understand and to communicate, is actually going down because the conflicts are increasing. It's a paradox in our time that we want peace. But at the same time, we are doing what? We're having violent thoughts. We are speaking violent words. We are listening to violent music. We are eating violent food stuff, having violent diets. That's very assaulting to our bodies. We are taking violent drugs, whether illicit or illicit drugs. We're having violent drinks. What to say about violent relationships? What to say of honoring violent politicians who create violence against themselves, violence against their families, and surely they'll create violence against their constituents. So while we are supporting all of this kind of violence, we're somehow anticipating peace. It's an obvious contradiction. Every 15 seconds or so, one person is killing another person on this planet. We look worldwide, the world spends about something like $20,000 US. That's right, I'm an American, I can say $20,000. That's in different countries. $20,000 to train and educate the average soldier. In contrast to $500 to educate the average child. There's something like only about 5,000 expert peace workers globally, in contrast to 500,000 expert workers, strategicians for war. The message is there. Is that while we are crying and we are begging and we're pleading for peace, that we're constantly preparing and accelerating war. So no wonder we have people who are becoming so violent. One-third out of every American has a gun. So people are thinking violently, and in many cases ready to act violently at a moment's notice, based on anxiety, frustration, gloom, and other types of. The sad thing is how we have kicked God out of the picture. We have told God, look, get out of our lives. Get out of our institutions. It is the fact that we have chased God out of schools. There was prayer. Now it is kicked out of the schools. And what we have brought into the schools, every day in America, about 150,000 weapons are brought into our public schools. While we are inviting and allowing pornography, we are seeing God and God-conscious activity. No time, no place for you. So many times now the parents are telling the teachers and frightening them to such an extent that teachers are afraid to discipline the children because there is a threat of child abuse. At the same time, the children are raping in the bathroom and assaulting the teachers, and what to say of how they're attacking their fellow students. We're at a time now where we're telling the young girls, You can have promiscuous activities. It's okay. And you don't even have to tell your parents if you want to eliminate the soul that you have invited into the womb. And so we made abortion so easy that now we even have situations where the baby can be born, the doctor can just kill the baby. It's considered okay. We're telling the boys will be boys. So therefore, we kick God out of the school, but we can bring condoms into the school. And we can distribute it to the boys because boys will be boys. So what are we turning our girls into, and what kind of men are we making that are supposedly going to be responsible and accountable to families? So much of a culture of assault, a culture of violence. So many activities that are encouraging people to not have proper, what we say, sadachar. That there is need for a chart and for chart. That our actions and our words should be similar. So that there is healthy character. We agree with our politicians that they can do whatever they want in private and even in public as long as we get what we want. And therefore we tell them that as long as they are producing something that we are interested in, they can stay. And we allow our religious leaders to live a life where they say, do as I say, but don't worry so much about what I do. And after all, we kick God out of the picture anyway, so what does it matter if our religious leaders no longer are representing a proper philosophical and theological conclusions? Because after all, we are captured now by so many unhealthy patterns of modernity. And so we see then how pervading now is the culture of deviation, the culture of fragmentation. Our spiritual mentor emphasizes that religion without philosophy is sentimentalism, it's emotional. It even create fanaticism. But philosophy without religion is mental speculation. And so we need to have deep religion that is encased with deep philosophy. And therefore will engender the highest level of science. Science that helps us understand more about the internal as well as the external. Science that helps us to realize that we're much more than physical entities. That we're spiritual beings undergoing mature experiences. We've emphasized in our book about the importance of the 4 C's. And we talk about character. You have it in the bookmarker also. That leadership should be in this way. First should be emphasis on character. Next should be on competence. Third should be on compassion. And fourth should be on courage. Character, because what one is ultimately will spill over into all aspects of his or her life and into all areas of the institutions of the community. If there is not compassion, then even with character, one will frustrate himself and frustrate others because it takes shakti, it takes power, it takes effectiveness to be able to allow things to happen in an awesome way. And if there is not compassion, then one will have the power, but will not be able to use it in a way that produces auspiciousness for humankind. So we see so much of that now. Misuse of power. Powerful people being so cocky. And there's a need for courage because most people will continue to be deviant. Most leaders will continue to be exploited, manipulative, and will capitalize on situations for their own sovereign interests. And most people will follow the patterns of such. There's a need for a culture that is invigorating and encourages the good. How do we do that? We need to have friends. We need to have friends we can confide in, friends who cheer us on. I see one of my good friends here. Me, in the back of my book, we have written that I'm the only Vaishnava guru in the world. That changed about a year ago. And the second Vaishnava guru is actually here with us. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He is graduate from Yale University, quite a great scholar, African American descent. We met just a few weeks ago in Ukraine, and we were bypassing each other in St. Petersburg and Moscow. Our schedule was so intense, we just talked on the phone. We mainly working on Australia, New Zealand, South America, and maybe we will both find a way to get more involved in America also. So somehow we convert from this hellish place. And we return and be able to do more. But he's visiting us in Deviated. We're so happy to be able to have him here. So we need such friends. We need friends who cheer us on. We need mentors who advise us. And we need role models that inspire us. But now where's the inspiration coming from? And that is a serious problem. I want to address character. And this is more of just looking at Dharma or ethics and morality. Because if ethics and morality is not in place, then there's no question of transcendence. There's no question of Sanatana Dharma. There's no question of eternal Dharma. There's no question of samadhi, of genuine God consciousness based on love and service. Unless the most fundamental things that sets the stage for such are established. And so although there's so much about how to bridge into transcendence in the book, today we're mainly going to talk about character, because it's one of the biggest things that society is starving from at this time. Character comes from the Greek word engraved, and it's in connection with the French word inscribed. So it's really about what shapes our personalities, our mentalities. Gandhi said that one cannot do right in one department of life while doing wrong in another department of life and consider him or herself to be healthy. Because life is one indivisible whole. So it's whole. So for people to have a political life, as we saw in the video, social, so many different personalities, at the end of the day, they don't know who they are. Or to be so different in terms of their private and their public life. This is schizophrenia. It's unhealthy. And it's one of the reasons we find that mental illness is also on the rise. Because people have to put so much effort into pretension, so much effort in trying to catch up with the fad, so much effort in trying to do things that are unhealthy for the stimulation of a sound mind and also a sound body. Chanakya Pandit says, with good character, one can conquer the three worlds. He says one should never doubt that, for anything is possible with good character. Great philosopher Heraclitus said that a man's fate is manifest in his character. Like a fate of an organization is also manifest in the character of its leadership. Aristotle says how character is that which we do when the choice is difficult. Or character is that which we do when no one is watching. Then we have a chance to see what one's real character is. But we who are in sound health know that there's always somebody watching. Because there's always this indwelling presence of the Godhead that is supervising all activities. Ralph Waldo Emerson is showing how so many different sectors can find something significant that's shouting out to us. He says that what you do Shout so loud in my ears, I cannot hear what you say. What you do, your actions, shout so loud, impact so significantly in my consciousness, in my ears, in my eyes, that I really cannot hear what you're saying. Because you're saying one thing, but your actions show something that is different. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, truthfulness is the basic principle for all religions. The four leaders of human society, emphasizing the renounced class, the sannyasi, the priest, or the scholar, the Brahminical class, the king and the public leader, must be tested crucially by their character and qualifications. It is necessary primarily that they be free from the contamination of the four disqualifications, namely gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. When leaders and individual employers have poor character, the organization will naturally suffer. Character determines how we respond in temptation. Our character determines how we use our skills. Our character determines how we proceed in success as well as in failure. But a leader must lead beyond his or her own institution. A leader with high character. That they should have an excellent character in their own institution, but it should go beyond that. It should be able to create community. It should be able to reinforce and to inspire people to create community, to go beyond the walls of their own institutional structure, institutional desires, aspirations, institutional stability. Because there's real character. Because real character impacts upon the environment. And it should go beyond, such leaders should go beyond just using people to make things happen. But it should involve themselves in doing things or making things happen for the people. It should go beyond just taking care of only their physical needs. In modern day psychology, we find that everyone has certain basic needs. It's all a part of humanity. At the first level, we have human needs physical needs, that is. Basic water, food, etc. The second level, and this is from the lower to the higher, from the animal to the divine. After physical needs are met, then there are needs for shelter. After the shelter is met, shelter needs how to keep on having the physical needs, an environment that allows such. And then third, there's a need for affiliation. Every sane person needs this kind of maturation experience. And higher than that is the need for self-esteem. But higher is the need for self-actualization or transcendence. So most of the world is stuck on the first need. Having gone past just dealing with eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Everything, and we explained this in the discussion on Bhishma Day, everything can be taken away from us. But only we can give away our integrity. Only we can give away our character. We become more and more global people who know the price of everything practically, but the value of almost nothing. There's a Native American parable that says, do good. Do good to all of those who you can, or that you can, in as many ways as you can, to as many people as you can, for as long as you can. That we have replaced community with commodities, with goods. And so we need to be able to rejuvenate ourselves by knowing the good, by loving the good, and by doing the good. That is cognitive, or the mind. That is emotional, that is the heart. And that is behavior, the hand, or the body. in motion. But now we're more into how to have immediate pleasure rather than to have enduring happiness. The last 3 or 4 days, some of you have been hearing me on the radio discussing some of these points. Is that immediate pleasure is often for one's personal sovereign gratification. Where enduring happiness involves relationship, where one now has to be more sensitive to what they're doing, saying, planning, what effects it has on others. We want to watch our thoughts because everything is connected with our thoughts. So many ancient texts, major texts that we are often consulting with reference to Bhagavad Gita, that our mind is so powerful. And if we can harness the mind and engage the mind properly, then the whole body, the whole being will correspond with such. But now, the mind and the senses are gone wild. And so as we are trying to look more for the culture of love, the culture of productivity based on present and future concerns, rather than the culture of violence, we look close to see what is going on in our mind. We watch our thoughts because our thoughts produce our words. We watch our words because our words produce our actions. We watch our actions because our actions, they engender our habits. And our habits produce our character. And our character produces our cultures. So we create cultures that are animated, particularly as we take closer notice of what is going on in our minds. And so we have now this amazing culture of fear. You can't love people deeply when you are afraid. You can't do the best in your business. You can't do the best in your family when you're so bombarded by different types of fears. So there are some who are eager to put as many people on the planet as possible in states of fear, where it becomes easier to centralize, and to motivate people for certain, sometimes unhealthy goals. Please do not allow fear, do not allow it to interfere with your ability to be loving and to give love and to receive love. There's a study done in 1996 that explained how those who see themselves as more ethical and more moral, that the quotient of happiness is so much higher than people who live by situational ethics, who just consider that what is good is whatever is good is pleasing for their sense gratification, and what is bad is simply getting caught in trying to pursue one's desires, not needs. There's a Chinese proverb that says, if you tell me, I will forget. If you teach me, I will remember. But if you show me, I will understand. Since we have this conception of Chaya Van Purusha Veda, that as there is the proper role models, then it becomes clear for everyone what is to be done, why it is to be done, how it is to be done. We often are consenting and just letting things happen, sometimes wondering how they happen. And then there are those who resent us, that things are happening, they're complaining about what's happening, and their whole life has become in a reactive mode. But we need to have inventors, those who are ready to make the difference, who realize that they have the power within them to be able to make a difference based on how they interact with people in their own environments. We need to have people who are ready to arrest the violence by first checking the violence within their own lives, within their own habits. How much are they loving themselves by taking proper care of the body, using the body what it is for? The body is not just designed for eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Animals do that much better than we do. But the body is about this transcendence, the self-actualization. And so when people and society have not evolved into that level, then it means that they are minimizing what this human form is about. As they just try to engage in finance on commodities. Everything material is with us for a while, and then it dwindles and it deteriorates and disappears. With character, we can buy what money cannot purchase. We can buy medicine, but we can't buy good health. We can buy a house, but we cannot buy a home. We can buy clothes, but can we buy beauty? We can buy a bed, but can we buy sleep? There's so many people with so much success and they can't sleep. We can buy so many books, but can we buy brains? We can buy cars and boats, and we can buy airplanes. But can we escape from our sufferings? We carry the same mind with us. We can transport this body to all kinds of places, but the mind will still go with us. We can buy all kinds of food, but we will still can be starving for affection. And we can even buy fame and still be lonely as hell. There's so many people who are so active in so many environments and have done all the things that constitute so-called success, and they are lonely and they're starving for affection. We can buy a reputation, but we cannot buy character. So character can give us so many things that, based on healthy lifestyle, good character, that we cannot get without such. One or two more short things, because our time is running very fast. And I want you to read the book. All this that I'm just saying is just to entice you to read the book. This is an advertisement. And we're desperate because we're giving you the book free. Huh? The book is yours. The cost is that you read it. If you don't read it, then you didn't pay for it. So you're a robber. You took something without paying. If you read it, then this is wonderful. We want to come to a point where we can say no to education without character. We want to come to a point where we say no more commerce without ethics. No more politics without principle. No more pleasure without a sense of accountability. We want to come to a point where we can say no more science. You realize some of the biggest threats now is big business and bad science? What's happening with cloning and biotechnology is a greater threat than any nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons that's out there. What can happen if it gets into the wrong hands? And it's the wrong hand that's already bringing this forth. So what happens is it remains more situated in the wrong hands. It's just amazing that there's as many people on this planet as there is now. It's amazing that there's few wars that there are now in terms of what is happening to people's thoughts and how those thoughts can engender a culture of war. I was explaining it yesterday on the radio, giving an example of one society in South Africa. It's a tribe that when someone steps out of alignment, engaged in crime, does not act with integrity, the members of the community all stop what they're doing and they circle around the person and they speak lovingly to that individual about so many wonderful things that he or she has previously done, as a way to remind them what they can do and what they really are supposed to be about. And this may go on for hours, for days, or for weeks. But the idea is letting that person know that we know that you are something greater than the actions that you somehow did accidentally or somehow you did and without understanding the implications of such actions. And so therefore, the tendency there is to reward the good, because whatever we reward, whatever happens, all kind of marketing campaigns, propaganda, the bottom line is what you reward is what you get more of. When crime and all kinds of deviations are no longer rewarded, then they will begin to diminish. When conflicts, when the goals or the achievements in solving the conflict is greater than the achievements in maintaining conflict, then we will see diminishing of conflicts. But in so many cases, the evil, the abuse, the exploitation is being rewarded. And because of that, more and more people are taking shelter of such things. So let me stop at this point. What we're going to discuss today as an advertisement to your book is that we're looking at how corporations are ruling the world. And it's not just a rumor, because where the money is where the power is. And we're seeing how leaders are having more and more ability to centralize, really more power in centralization, so the decisions that they make have a greater impact on a larger number of people. And while the leaders are having more influence, their mental culture is becoming more and more degraded. The people make the leaders, and the leaders make the people. So it becomes important for some change to take place.